It's a beautiful medieval city in the heart of Europe, and there is so much more here than just cheap beer, although a bonus is still a bonus. Welcome to Prague. Now, Prague's most popular tourist attraction, without a doubt, is the Charles Bridge. Now, this bridge has stood here for over 600 years and has so much importance to the city of Prague because at one point it was the only crossing above the Vltava River, which runs through the center of the city. And it was also the only crossing between Prague's old town behind me and Prague Castle on the other side. Now, Charles Bridge is always so busy. So, for example, when I first came yesterday late afternoon, it was heaving with tourists. But now I've come first thing in the morning, it's around 8 a.m. here, and you can see just how much more quiet it is. So my advice is to first, if you can, go to Charles Bridge in the morning, and then you can do all the other attractions after that. Now, the Charles Bridge has over 30 Baroque statues that align the avenue that lead from the old town into the castle area of the city. And these statues feature various religious leaders, various patron saints throughout the history of the area. But the most important one is the one behind me. Now, this is the statue of John of Nepomuk. And he was once the personal confessor of the Queen of Bohemia. So she would be the one who she would confess all her sins to. Now, one day the King of Bohemia comes up to John and says he wants to know all the confessions of the Queen. Now, of course, John says he can't do that. So what does the king do? He throws John to his death from this very bridge. And this statue features pictures of him being thrown from the bridge. And what people do is they come and touch the picture of him being thrown to his death, and people think that by touching the priest on the statue it brings good luck, and that will also mean that one day you will return to Prague. So a bit like the Trevi Fountain of Rome, but it's a bit weird, but it is, if you come to the Charles Bridge, you will see that this is the statue that so many people are crowding around just to touch the pictures of the priest, and it's quite interesting. Now, where I am now is Prague's Old Town Square, and this really is the beating heart of the city. This square goes back to medieval times, around the 13th century, and there is so much history and culture around this square. So just behind me you have the Gothic-style Church of Our Lady. On the opposite side of the square we have the Church of St. Nicholas. In the center of the square we have the Jan Hus Memorial, who was a Protestant Reformation leader. And just behind that we also have the National Art Gallery of the Czech Republic, where they have lots of art exhibits. And just behind me here, if you go into these side streets, you will then go into the winding alley streets of the old town. Also in Prague's Old Town Square is the Astronomical Tower just behind me. Now, this tower is famous for its clock because this clock here is one of the oldest in the world. And when it strikes the hour, you will see hundreds of people try and stand in front of it just so they can hear its chimes.
哦，来上面你看它的人数也有，看到，看到啊，最上面的两个洞呢。
Now, if you couldn't already tell, I'm a Scouser. Liverpool is in my blood. That blood runs red. And when I found out that Prague has a wall dedicated to John Lennon, I obviously had to come here. Now, the wall dates back to his murder in the early 1980s as just a tribute, but after that it became a symbol of resistance against the communist regime at the time. And it's been painted over numerous times by authorities, but each time it keeps coming back, brighter and more bigger than ever. And now it's just a symbol of hope, love and peace, and it's such a good trip. Just off the Old Town Square, you can find the Clementina. Now, this used to be Prague's main observatory for centuries and is home to a stunning library. The top of its tower also gives you the best view of Prague's Old Town and making it the best place to take some beautiful skyline pictures of the city. Now, one thing Prague has an abundance of is theatres and opera houses. Prague is very proud of its history of music and opera. For example, the theatre behind me, the Estates Theatre, is where Mozart premiered 2 of his operas. And all around the city, you will run into theatres and opera houses and not even realise it. If you come to the Jewish quarter, I absolutely recommend getting the Jewish tour tickets from the information centre here. Now, this gives you access to all the synagogues in the quarter as well as the cemetery here, and it is such an incredible, moving experience to go on that tour, especially if you go to the Pinkas synagogue, where the names of everyone who didn't survive the Holocaust here in Prague lines every wall of the synagogue. And walking around the cemetery too, it was so heart-wrenching and brought tears to my eyes. It's such a moving experience, and it is important that everyone should know that history, so I definitely recommend it. In fact, you have to come here. If you come to Prague, you have to come and do this tour. Now, a few months ago I saw a video on Twitter, I think it was from the Insider channel, where they showed that in Prague City Hall they have something which is one of the only one of its kind in the world. And it's pretty unique and interesting, and I thought while I'm here, might as well take a look. So I had heard stories that in Prague they have a beer spa where in their waters, instead of normal water, they use beer for relaxation. And you know from my Andorra video that I love a spa. So I just had to look into this, and it does exist, and I've booked a session there, and I can't wait to see what this is all about. So let's go. Now behind me is Prague Castle. Now a castle has stood here since the 9th century, and it's been the seat of the old kings of Bohemia, the Holy Roman Emperors, and is today the home of the President of the Czech Republic. And I'm gonna go in and see what it's like. In the grounds of Prague Castle, you will find the beautiful Gothic cathedral of St. Vitus. Now, it's in this cathedral where many of the old kings and emperors that ruled over the lands that is now the Czech Republic are buried. My last recommendation in Prague is to take the funicular up to Kinski Gardens, where you can enjoy a nice stroll around its park, and also head up its observation tower, where you can enjoy a great view of the city. So before I came to Prague, all I knew about really was that the bridge was the main attraction here, but I've spent 2 nights, 3 days here, and I've been surprised at how much there is to see and do here. Like, this is such an amazing city, and now I can see why it's so popular with tourists now. And I can definitely see myself coming back here in the future just to go to that beer spa. And I hope all the stuff in the video has been useful to you if you're coming to Prague, and have a great time if you ever come here. It's brilliant.